Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Simha Jai Nisimha Jaya Jaya Nisimha Praladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Shri Nisimha Jai Nisimha Jaya Jaya Nisimha Praladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shira Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shira Prabhupada Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So we have 1864 on the board, but I prepared for 1864, but I prepared for 1863. So I will read 1863. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe I'll just chant. Thank you, Subal. Iti te jnanam akyatam guyataram maya vimrshyayatad asheshena yatichasi tata guru. I will chant it again. iti te gyanam akyatam guyad guyataram maya vimrishya ita dasheshena yatechasi tata guru. So repeat after me. Iti, thus, te, unto you, jnanam, knowledge, akyatam, described, guyat, then confidential, guyataram, still more confidential, maya, by me, vimshya, deliberating, etat, on this, asheshena, fully, yata, as, ichasi, you like, tata, that, kuru, perform. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. I'll repeat it. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Purport. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahma-bhuta. One who is in the Brahma-bhuta condition is joyful, he never laments, nor does he desire anything. That is due to confidential knowledge. Krishna also discloses knowledge of the Supersoul. This is also Brahman knowledge, knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. Here the words yatechasi tata kuru, as you like, you may act, indicate that God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the Supersoul seated within the heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the Supersoul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Arjuna is being directly ordered by the Personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. Before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instruction comes also through the Spiritual Master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganara Gunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Katadra Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So, thank you all for coming. So So last week we spoke for whoever was here about how Arjuna is forced to fight anyway, like he has some certain kind of material nature, some certain body, and being himself a kshatriya, this was 18.59, and being himself a kshatriya, if he doesn't follow the order of Shri Krishna, which is to fight and do it for his pleasure, he will be forced eventually also to do it because of his nature, and the modes of passion because of his lower nature. So the modes of passion will force him to act anyway and to fight. So then Krishna is then presenting in the verses afterwards the solution. So how to get, so if the modes of the material nature are so forcefully forces how to act, actually, so how can I then have a proper decision? Yeah. So the super soul is the master of the modes, and this is what the Krishna then presented to him. And the super soul directs all the wanderings of the living entities, and this is the more confidential knowledge that it is presented here, and that is stated in the verse. So the knowledge about the super soul. But what was the confidential knowledge? Yeah, and Prabhupada immediately says in the purport, I will go. So I always, what I do, how I approach the verse, as I said last time, is that I try to read it a few times and see what questions comes up. And then, of course, I try to read the purport and try to understand it as much as my intelligence goes. And I always find it very illuminating, especially in this verse, but always the purport. It's really, find it complete. So what I would like to do is, like, I would go paragraph by paragraph, or let's say a few sentences, and then I would try just to expand what Srila Prabhupada already wrote there. So the beginning of the purport: the Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahma-bhuta. One who is in the Brahma-bhuta condition is joyful, he never laments, nor does he desire anything. And that is due to confidential knowledge. Krishna also discloses knowledge of the super soul. That this is also Brahman knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. So as is written here, Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, but also stated in 1854. I will read it quickly. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So here it's Krishna is explaining the Brahma-bhuta platform, and Prabhupada is stating here in the purport that this is the confidential knowledge, but knowing about the super soul, it's even more confidential knowledge. And I was thinking of a few books that I was reading before Krishna consciousness. Two especially. One is called Letting Go from David Hawkins. One is The Power of Now, which is very famous, from Eckhart Tolle. Did anybody read? Yeah, you read it? Yeah. And it's very interesting because in the introduction of the book, he explains how he got this enlightenment, and it's quite interesting because he was until his 30s he was very much depressed. He had suicidal thoughts, and he's describing how he really had this deep longing of annihilate almost himself. And one night he was just, I will make it very briefly, and one night he just wakes up in the night and he feels so bad. He just walks down the street and everything feels so void, so empty, and then one negative thought starts to repeat in his mind, and he's saying, I cannot live with myself any longer. I cannot live with myself any longer. And then at a certain point he says that he has this, okay, but who is this myself? Like, are there one, are there two person, and maybe one is then has to be one real and one not. And then this makes him like even go into more intense fear and such a vortex of emotions, and then he doesn't remember anything more, and he wakes up in his bed the day after, and somehow he said he didn't even open his eyes, but he hears the chirping of the birds, and it's the most amazing sounds ever. He said this is like, it was not like nothing he ever have heard before. And then he slowly opens his eyes, and there's the ray light coming in the window, and that light felt like pure love. And he goes on describing in different ways, and also he shares, of course, in the book the many realizations that he has, which are very, very deep. And it's interesting how to when one explains this form of enlightenment that he cannot get quite, that it brought upon him. And I find it, very, very interesting to hear so many, I would say, parts that are in common with what is described here in the Brahma-bhuta stage here in the Bhagavad-gītā. But of course, he takes it from the more impersonalist side. And for example, in this book, he gives also this map of state of being, up to enlightenment. So he starts from a lower state of being when you feel despair, sorrow, vengeance, anger, and all this low kind of emotions, until middle stage acceptance, gratitude, and then at the end there's love. But love is in the third position. It's not even the highest state of being, and love and he explains in different part. Love is for some kind of way of facilitates healing for him. It's more like to get rid of the fault of the ego. For him is more of the ego, not the false ego, as Prabhupada gives us the understanding, the real understanding. And in fact, then in the next stage is so there's love in the third position, and then the second position is this feeling of oneness, and then in the first position is peace, which I found it very interesting. And this is exactly what is explained in the Bhagavad-gītā. This one achieve peace through this Brahma-bhuta stage. Of course, there's also joy, there's also love, but it's that's I would say the main, because you feel this total fearlessness, that is brought about from this material identification. So love is more considered as an energy, a frequency that is experienced due to the illusion of being separated from the rest. And when you sublimate this love, then there is peace. Love is just more of almost like a tool. This Brahma realization was, as I said, that brings peace of the mind. And of course, when you get rid of fears, then there's much joy, there's much relief, and the same absolute truth, which is also in the Brahman realization, is present also in the all-knowing form within every living entity. And this also part of the absolute truth, direct also all the wanderings, and is the best friend of all. And here Prabhupada clearly says that it's superior. And one way that I found of thinking of, okay, why is it superior? And also it contains this realization. It's because Brahma realization, you feel this oneness, you feel that you're not really different from the other things, and you see the connection between. But the super soul realization, also you can clearly see that there is a well-wisher inside of every living entity, and you can perceive that is directing, that is acting in order to make the best out of every living entity, and you can have some kind of also relationship, because it gives you intuition from within. so there is some kind of communication. So one way of seeing it also, there's more relationship between the living entity and the absolute truth in the state of Paramatma realization. So this was a little point that I was thinking of bring about. And then he continues on. Here the words yatechasi tatakuru, as you like, you may act. Prabhupada says that indicate that God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. So God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. So one question that comes up, I was thinking of this question. So God does not want to interfere with the little independence that we have, yeah? Yet we are almost at the final point of the Bhagavad-gītā, and Krishna has been talking and advising Arjuna for the past 42 minutes of the whole conversation, yeah? What shall he do? So on one side he doesn't want to interfere with his little dependence, but still, he's advising and telling him, look, you really should be fighting from all different parts of angles, and so it seems that it's almost interfering. What do you think of that? Is it clear, the question? Shall I repeat? Yeah. So God is clearly stated in the purport also, and this is the whole point of the translation of the verse, is that God does not want to interfere with the independence of the living entity. Yes, he says to Arjuna, now I told you everything. Just do what you like think on it and do what you wish to do. So it seems quite clear that God does want to give you, okay, you decide what to do, but still, in the past 40 minutes of the conversation, he was just like telling in so many ways how Arjuna should be fighting, actually. So this doesn't seem like somebody not trying to interfere with your free will. Or? So what do you think on this point? Does somebody has a thought on that? Yeah.
I'm thinking of he is making interferes a lot with Arjuna's mind, gives him a lot of concepts and his opinion, but he lets him complete free will on his own intellect. So this is, I learned it this year, this difference from mind and intellect, and I thought, that's he gives a lot of concepts, a lot of understanding, and lets completely free, like the best friend. He's only putting effort into his mind and not into his intellect.
Mm-hmm. But putting something into his mind, is it not interfering?
Oh, it is interfering, yeah, a lot. It would not be interfering if he would not be there.
Right. So in this way of interfering, then he's kind of like limiting the free will, oh?
No, he would limit the free will if he would go to the other side, to the Kauravas, and say to them, he's thinking of not fighting, you should pull your troops a little bit back, so this would interfere.
Okay. So he didn't do, let's say, any clear action to step on his, to try to deviate in the action where he would like to, let's say. Okay.
Yes, he is not changing the situation for Arjuna.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think it's the situation is a bit like a diabetes patient going to a doctor and asking, I have diabetes, what shall I do? So doctor says, okay, do not eat a lot of sweet things, do a lot of exercise. These are the advices I would give you. But then he does not pushes him to do all these advices or follow these advices. You just say, okay, look, these are the things you should do. In my opinion, these are I enlighten yours, or I advise you these. But it's again then your free will to do. It's not really interfering in his actions, but showing me a direction, but still giving him a free will to choose what he wants to do.
Right, a very nice example, very fitting, yes. Yeah, it's like having, I don't know, a child that finds a €100 banknote on somewhere, somehow he finds it. And then, he goes around with his €100 banknote, and then, people start looking at him. And the child, because of course the child is intelligent, it feels like, okay, I mean, maybe they usually don't look at me like this, so maybe something of value that I have, maybe I can get a chocolate, out of it. And so he would go to the first person and exchange this 100 banknote for a chocolate, yeah. But that's why there are the parents instead. They might be there and they're like, oh no, well wait a second, you have €100 notes. Maybe you don't know the value, but maybe I can guide you in doing something better, or maybe get more out of that. And this is very similar, yeah. And also we have in our case we've been given the human form, and somehow we really didn't choose, or at least we don't remember choosing it for sure. So what Krishna is doing is giving just guidance so that we can use it, this human form, as best as possible. And then of course the free will is still there. And also another thing is that we can really appreciate how carefully and tactfully Krishna is doing it throughout the whole Bhagavad-gītā. So it's not just doing, okay, now you do this and you just obey me because, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just saying, okay, look, this, if you act in a detached way, internally, but externally attached, then these are the results that you get. And this, it's good or bad, and then he's also saying his opinion very much. And this other path is very good, but if you follow Bhakti Yoga, then it's even better. And he goes always like that, but never really say something very categorically, let's say. And so the responsibility of choice is always ours, but also is to know that Krishna, anyway, really wants to go out of his way because of love for Arjuna and love for every living entity, to really explain, for example, the path of bhakti. We have in total 17 questions from Arjuna in the whole Bhagavad-gītā, and they are more or less spread out in the chapters, usually at the beginning of the chapter, but of course not always. And especially in the 8th chapter, in the first verse, Arjuna is asking different questions, and then he doesn't speak. Krishna is speaking all the way until the 12th verse of the 10th chapter, and this is quite one of the longest period in which Krishna is speaking. But usually Krishna is always answering the questions of Arjuna, and is quite precise also in answering the questions, and in a very very expanded way and complete way. But after answering his questions in the 8th chapter, he really cannot wait to tell him and reveal the most confidential knowledge, which is the chapter 9, yeah, which is Bhakti Yoga. So it's really, he also have this very much love for the living. He really wants the best out of them, and so eager to also give them the best possibility. It's like, in his example, it's like the doctor, is maybe showing different types of way how you can cure the disease for the patient, but he has some certain preference, because of course he has some experience in his job, and maybe this patient has been coming to him quite a few times, and they have some certain relationship. So he might give the whole spectrum of possibility, but he really have an inclination to say something in particular, to give one path in particular, to give one way of curing himself. So, so another point which I found it very interesting was to deliberate fully, which is really stressing here that you should be taking this choice and really think on it in a wholesome way, and not leave everything aside. And then Prabhupada continues the purport. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the Super Soul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the Super Soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. So here Krishna is saying clearly, okay, surrender unto the Super Soul. And here it seems like a bit what it said before, that he doesn't really say something very clearly, but here instead it seems quite a strong statement, yeah. And he's basically saying, surrender unto me, yeah, because he also said that it's not different from the Super Soul. So it might be seen on a superficial kind of side. That is a bit of a proud kind of statement. Yeah, I just go to somebody and tell them surrender unto me. But Krishna, but what we need to really try to understand and realize mostly is that we are a tiny part of the absolute truth of Krishna, and our eternal position is to harmoniously act with the complete whole. We had last week Akshara Prabhu that amazingly explained this point, and also on Monday on the Srila Prabhupada's lecture, Prabhupada was explaining this example that we heard maybe a lot of times of the finger that has to collaborate with the stomach and the rest of the body. Yeah, so the finger cannot just eat and enjoy by himself, but on the hand, it has to be serving the whole body to be able to nurture himself. Yeah, and also another amazing point that Prabhupada brought on Monday was that we are eternal servants, so we are this infinitesimal part of the whole, and this means that being a servant, that we cannot accept service, so we are not capable of receiving service. So it means that when somebody is trying to serve me, I cannot become really fully satisfied. But this is the tendency that we have here in this material world to enjoy. Yeah, and let's say somebody does something nice for me, give me a gift, or he serves me in some way. Yeah, and I think, oh wow, okay, that's very. I felt very nice by having this attention, by having this gift, or all these little things done for me. You know. And it can be quite fine if I see it in the connection. Okay, Krishna, just give me this opportunity, but I still be detached from it, and I just keep on. Then it's all fine. But if I get attached to it, and I feel, okay, this kind of sensation, I want to feel it again, and I want it again to happen, this service to me, then what happens? This attachment will bring greed. Yeah, so I want it again. And this little enjoyment, or so-called enjoyment that I get, then it's first of all, it's very temporary, and then when I am not able to fulfill it, then frustration comes. Yeah, this is what I explained in the second chapter. So this becomes very clear that we are not really able to be the enjoyers, being an eternal part of Krishna. So going on the purport. I had another question also. So what does he say to surrender specifically to him? Yeah, I was thinking like, that Does he have some controlling tendencies, or he wants to subjugate living entities? Yeah, why do they need to go to him? Yeah, why they cannot just be here and he's there, I'm here, and I'm having different relationship with the other living entities, and yeah, somehow I live the life. Yeah, and Prabhupada amazingly said then in the purport, he keeps on, surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. Before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada amazingly says that Krishna is really asking us to surrender to him, but this is really not for his own interest. He doesn't have anything to do with, he doesn't have any behind motivation, so to say. Yeah, this is because, as we said, we are eternal parts, and this is really where our full satisfaction, our full enjoyment resides, and also this intelligence that we have been given. And here Prabhupada says we should be deliberating on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. And this intelligence is also a very great sign of our freedom. Yeah, if we wouldn't have this intelligence to decide and to position our desire, there wouldn't be any free will. Yeah, so that's why also Krishna is asking, okay, just to deliberate on this, to really try to think on it, to go deeply and study it and try to realize it, and then act upon it. And also another point is that at the beginning Arjuna actually already says that he surrendered to Krishna. In 2.7 till 2.9, he says, okay, Krishna, I'm surrendering unto you, and I'm your disciple now. Please instruct me. Yeah. But then at the very next verse, he says, yeah, but Govinda, please don't ask me to fight. And this is also what in the position that we are now, and this is like we want to surrender, and we've quite understood, okay, there is much of sense in surrendering, but our surrender is conditional. I surrender unto you, and for example, we are in the temple, we do different engagement, but only if you engage me in this proper way, so that my mind still gets pacified, and or I surrender unto you, but don't ask me to do this and this and that. Yeah. And this is also why he asked Arjuna to deliberate fully, to really ponder, to full-heartedly decide to surrender, because we need to really give up this other pulling out on the other direction. This is all the Krishna wants, and we have this deep conditioning. We're very much helpless where to start with our karma and how to right in our ship. And this is the reason why is Krishna stressing so much of the surrender, because just by our own strength we cannot get out of our karma, because whenever we try to contemplate and look for different places where we can get some happiness, where we can get some enjoyment, then we always end up frustrated, no matter the different conclusions that we get to. So to break this vicious circle and to find real solutions to our problem, we really need somebody who has higher intelligence that we actually have. So in this sense, surrender to Krishna means also to align our intelligence with the higher intelligence, to break this vicious circle of looking for different ways of enjoyments and keep being frustrated by it. I have two last points. Another very interesting takeaway from this verse, I feel, is that Krishna really wants to enter in this loving relationship with Arjuna. Yeah, he really explained him the path of Bhakti Yoga, which is the science of relationship, as Prabhupada says. But we really need the freedom for that. Yeah. So, and a lot of time when we enter into relationship, we misunderstand this point of the need of the free will in the relationship. And a lot of times we have so many expectations on the other person, and this is one of the biggest factors in the separations than in the relationships. So especially, well, we can take of course conjugal relationship, but also friendship relationships. We at the beginning we start and we have we really want to get and do. We see something that we like into the other person, and we want to associate with it, and it seems everything amazing at the beginning, but we don't see already the seed of expectations that is behind, and then when we spend more time, and maybe we get married if it's in the type of conjugal or in the friendship we get tied together. Then there are certain things that comes out and that you would like the other person to behave, or they would like the other person that he would take some special care of your own needs, and these are all hidden expectations that we all somehow have, and this is why there are not really material relationships or relationships based on the material platform that can really work and in which love can fully blossom. And usually these expectations that we have when we enter into relationships are not really also in our awareness. And for example, if let's say I meet a person on the street, actually just one person walking in the street, and somehow the purse falls from their pocket, yeah, and then I notice it, and the person didn't see it and just keeps on walking. Okay, I go there and take the purse, and then I go to the person and say, hey, look, you've lost your purse. And imagine if the person just takes it and keeps on walking. How would you feel? Somehow would you feel like, okay, he didn't even say thank you, or he didn't even react on it. So when we went at the beginning, we take the purse and we went to the person, we just wanted to give it back, yeah. But we didn't really realize that we had some kind of expectation actually on the action, which is at least having some gratitude or something. And this is something that happens also in the relationships, and especially we take a lot of this example of the mother and the child, yeah. And the mother has we always say that she has the closest the closest example of a spiritual relationship, yeah, because she's totally selfless on the way she cares for the child. But somehow or other, there's also the seed of expectation. Lots of times is also there. When the child is totally he cannot really takes care of himself, then of course the mother is all the time there, and she does it with so much love, and no, she doesn't want anything in return. But as the child grows, and then as the relationship develops, then most of the time, usually there are always some kind of expectations. Then the some kind of way how would she wants to somehow to relate with the child, yeah, and in general also how we see it in the relationship as they get closer, especially in conjugal relationship. But this is also one of the reasons why we have a lot of divorces, of separations, is because there are a lot of expectations that grow and grow during the time, and the expectation limits somehow the actions, and because I want the other person to behave like this, I want and this, and we try to accommodate also the other person, and relationship becomes somehow like a prison, and we don't really feel this freedom also of ourselves in the relationship. So relationship must be in total freedom. And the last very point, which is the last sentence of the purport of this verse, is that such instruction comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada also nicely states that Krishna is clearly saying to surrender unto the super soul, which is within, but especially in the beginning times, it's not so easy also to hear the super soul within. It also can be much confused of the dictation of the mind. So that's why also it's very important to have a spiritual, to approach a spiritual master, which has been said in the beginning, and how very intelligently also Arjuna does, as a very nice example for all of us. And the spiritual master is also non different from the super soul. Is the bona fide, as is written here, bona fide representative of Krishna. So the super soul is guiding us from within and from without. From within as the super soul acting as a well-wisher, and from without through the spiritual master. And the spiritual master, of course, is also is also a living entity, is also as the super soul within, but he is a self-realized person, and is much more in contact with the super soul. So this is also one of the reasons why he's so able to then relate to us and gives us the best instruction for us. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Are there some questions, doubts, comments? If not, yeah. Hare Krishna, Shirin.
So yeah, there's one question in the chat, and Shireen asks, is it wrong to be mad at Krishna sometimes? Why or why not? And how do I go on about it?
So just repeat, is it right to be mad at Krishna sometimes? And if not, why not?
Yeah, why or why not?
Why or why
Is
not?
it okay to be mad at Krishna?
What I would do if I get mad at Krishna, I would try to see, okay, why am I mad in this very situation? Yeah. So especially when we experience anger, somehow we're not really understanding, not really having the whole overview of the situation. As it says in the second chapter also, when anger develops, then we bewilderment of memory, and so we easily get in illusion. We don't have a clear picture. So I would try to see, okay, am I myself being mad at Krishna? Is it based on some tangible reasons, or maybe if I introspect myself a little bit more, maybe I can see, maybe I can hold myself a bit more accountable for the situation which I'm getting in, and on the reasons behind myself grieving. So yeah, lots of times, and I would say also when it happens to me, I have to say, I somehow or other always find myself that I have definitely responsibility into what is happening to me. So I would say, yeah, this would be one way. If you would really feel okay, I'm angry at Krishna, I would say it really helps to get deeper into the scriptures. I mean, more scriptural study in the sense of really understanding Krishna's position and really how he's into the Bhagavad-gītā, which seems that there are not so much of loving exchanges with Arjuna. Actually, there is so much within, and he's clearly pouring out his heart in his wanting to instruct him and wanting him to take the best decision. So I do feel that the more we understand our relationship with Krishna, so the Sambandha Gyan, the more we understand his position and his loving, completely loving nature towards us and towards all living entities, then it becomes more and more difficult to become mad at Krishna. That's what I would like to say. Does somebody would like to add something, or some thoughts on the questions? Then, thank you, Shirin Mataji, for the nice question. Thank you all for attending the lecture. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Prahlad Lakshmi Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande.